Good to go. Well, just a quick bit of feedback from the last 2 hours. What did people make of it? Alistair, what did you make of it?
I think, a lot of the problems are caused by legislation, and we know that from the newspaper article about the 8 billion deficit caused by SEND. But I do think when we're looking at the budget as elected members of Worcestershire, we need to hold to account the efficiencies. So we know that we're in a world that a lot of it is controlled outside of our control, all right, by Whitehall. But when it comes to Worcestershire, we just need to keep on beating the drum about looking at opportunities, as Emma was talking about, and looking at efficiencies and drive that through. And I think that's the key point for me.
Anyone else have got? Emma, what are your thoughts?
Yeah, I just want to say, we want to see that, we don't want this to be, when we're looking at this, it's a managed decline, but, we talk about that. Actually, we want to see, and that's why I wanted to know about those spend to saves, those investing, because we are looking forward and we are actually going, Worcestershire is going to be a great place to live, and there is so much good in what we do for the county. So it was really good to see those points. But to be honest, it is, as you said, we've just got to wait now till next week and see what the budget from central government holds for us, and whether or not anyone in government is going to be brave enough to look at these legislations which handicap us in some ways to be able to do anything.
I actually think one of the things which you mentioned, Mr. Chairman, was about the MPs, because we're going to have to lobby the 6 MPs in Worcestershire because of the different things which we're constrained by for a number of things, and to look at that there, because we have to think to ourselves, some of our legislation at the moment, you think it would be simple and easy, and it needs a change. And the settlements financial settlements that we receive, now it's going to be the 19th of December, and previous years it's been late, and that doesn't give us or members time when you consider the budget is going to be done by February at the latest. And that there is putting huge pressure on officers and to a small extent members, but a lot of officers trying to sort out different budgets for different things. And I think that's not helping us. So consultation or lobbying, as you call it, with the 6 MPs, I think we need to do more of.
So we are blessed with, I'm just thinking of the MP for Bromsgrove and Redditch. They've got a local government background. They've served as county councillors, so they'll understand the pressures we're under. And in a way, I would be looking to the Labour MPs to really raise this, because they've got the ear of the minister in a way that others perhaps haven't. And it's for Labour MPs, I think, in Worcestershire to go out there and bang the drum for Worcestershire and ensure that our demand-led services are properly funded by national exchequer as much as local taxpayers. I think my view is that if this settlement is unhelpful, I think a member briefing would be in order, so everybody understood the sort of conversation we've had this morning, because you can do it in the panel, and we will do it in the panels, but you don't get the overall picture. You get the deep dive into that service area, whereas what we've received this morning is an overarching explanation about where we are now and where we might be going, and it's pretty stark. Emma's right, though. We shouldn't be waving our shroud this morning, saying it's all doom and gloom. We've got to find a way of creating some optimism. And the things that often matter most to you and me and the public are the discretionary services rather than the mandatory ones. The countryside services, these sorts of things are things that make a difference to people's lives. If we're just going to focus on the agency role, we don't need a council. That can be done, in a sort of quasi-business manner. So, homeschool transport was managed in that way. We don't need councillors to get involved in that. That's an officer thing, by and large. I mean, thinking about homeschool transport, thinking the unthinkable, because the budget is continuing to soar out of, it's going higher and higher and higher, and there doesn't seem to be any break on it as far as I can see. You might have to think the unthinkable. You might have to think, well, okay, parents who have children going to school are going to have to contribute to that cost. That's the unthinkable. So we're no longer talking about free state education, because they would argue that, their local catchment school, I think of Handley Castle High School in my patch, where there are over 1,000 pupils, nearly all bust in every day, because it's such a weird location. So we might, we might have to begin thinking about things that we never thought we would be talking about, just to solve this issue, because that is a completely unsustainable medium-term financial plan. In fact, they haven't got a medium-term financial plan because they can't have. There are too many component facts that are not yet understood to be able to put together a plan. So I think that let's wait and see what the settlement is, and if it is not good news, then I think every member of this council needs to understand that, because I think we need to step up to the plate, forget the politics for one moment, and just understand that we have responsibility, and we need to understand where we are. So that's my view. Maybe a member briefing in that circumstance. Anyone else got any views before we move on to the next agenda item? Tony?
Yeah, I think when we look at this and we look at legislation, I think the public need to be more aware of what we are trying to achieve and how we're trying to satisfy the needs of the parents with children with special needs. And you look at transport, and I wonder why does the grammar school have their own coaches for that? Because it was more cost effective to do so. Now, have we looked at that? I don't know. But I think when the public starts shouting about this, that the government should be supporting the local councils more, and at the end of the day, we all pay for it, don't we, in one way or another, through tax of some sort of tax arm. But it needs to be highlighted, and the public, not only ourselves need to shout, but the public as well need to start screaming to say we've got to do something about this.
It's interesting you talked about schools themselves providing homeschool transport, and you're dead right, I'd forgotten this. In schools in Malvern Hills, where there's a really competitive marketplace for pupils, you've got two big schools in Malvern, for instance, very competitive, and they provide their own transport, which they sort out, because it's part of the package in terms of enticing pupils to that particular school, and Handley Castle does that as well. So we already have schools volunteer, through their own budgets, providing transport, because that is one of the ways they can attract kids to that school. So come to Dyson Parents and we'll get you there. So in a way it's already happening, which begs the question, maybe that's the way forward. Anyone else got anything to say before we move on to the next item? Great stuff. I thought it was a really good set of questions. So let's move on then to the other item on the agenda today, and that's just, guys, giving you if you have an opportunity now to give us any feedback on any meeting you've had since we last met. Obviously, you're all about to go into budget scrutiny mode in the next month. Is there anything just going around the room that anyone would want to raise? So I'm going to start with Karen. Karen, is there anything from your world you'd want to raise this morning?
Well, I was going to give you an update on the agenda items we're covering. Do you want that? Yeah?
Well, I think we've got a list. We've seen a list of what's coming. So by all means, talk us through it.
Okay, well, since the last OSPB, we've received a very comprehensive report regarding tourism in Worcestershire. which is quite progressive, and an update on strategic rail and road infrastructure. In January 2025, in addition to budget scrutiny, we've got a report on Worcestershire's rural economy with an invitation extended to the National Farmers Union. And our March meeting will feature a review of council-owned commercial property.
Thank you, Karen. Moving on to Tony.
Yes, thank you, Chairman. We've looked at our work plan for the coming future, and taken into account that the elections will be taking place. So we've moved some things forward so they don't detract from that. And I have actually gone and left my notes at home to report to you. So. Yeah, Joe, you're wonderful.
So January, in addition to budget, the annual staff survey and resident road shows, and then March is performance and budget monitoring, revised workforce strategy, refresh of the scrutiny work programme, and councillors' divisional funding.
That's important, actually.
Well, looking at the question that I've asked in the past is, if you've got 3 county councillors in a town, your divisional funding, you've got 30k. If you've got a rural councillor with 10 or 12 parish councils, it doesn't go as, you can't have as much impact.
It's actually the same page.
Yeah. Yeah, and I think there needs to be a proportionate look at how that is going forward.
You're right, because I'm thinking, Karen, I'm thinking of Malvern, where you've got 4 county councillors in pretty much, that's 40k. I mean, yours goes into the rural area as well, but certainly you've got 3.5 then. You could do quite a lot with £30,000. I mean, Tony, for me, there's a wider issue about the role of members in rural areas, contrasting with members in urban areas. When I talk to my colleagues about the fact that I spend most of my evenings in parish council meetings, 2.5 hours in Golford last night, freezing cold, there are some councillors who don't attend town and parish councils at all. Absolutely just don't do it. The job is completely different. I've got 13 parish councils. Yeah, it's a completely different job spec, I'll be honest. Okay. Alistair.
Yeah, since we last met, we had a meeting of the Environment Overview and Scrutiny Panel, and we looked at on demand, buses on demand, Bromsgrove on demand, Worcestershire on demand. It's all the same thing. Good news story in Bromsgrove and Malvins, and we're hoping that it will be rolled out across the county as well. We also looked at community transport and how that can work with demand responsive transport at the same time. So I think it's a good news story. It's got a lot of positives for our rural areas who don't have buses at the moment, but will soon be able to call up a minibus. So I think just keep watching this space on that. 2 other things. As mentioned at full council, the Streetscape Design Guide has gone out for consultation. We've got until the 27th of January to give feedback. It's such an important document because it's how highways, our own departments, design our streets. So when a developer is putting in an application on a new roundabout or a pedestrian crossing, etc., or a developer is looking at building a large housing estate, it's this that they refer to. And there's a lot of changes in it. I asked at full council to have a summary of what the main changes are. I've sent an email to Emily Baker asking for that after full council. I've just sent her another chaser. But Chairman, if we don't get that information and we don't have enough time to consider it properly, then I think that deadline of the 27th of January might be too soon. Because it will have a major impact on the council for many years, and I think it needs everyone's input. And the other thing just to mention...
Where is that scrutiny going to? Has it gone to all members?
It's not a scrutiny, it's a new guide.
Consultation.
So it was agreed at Cabinet on the 24th of October to go out for consultation. It's gone across everybody, so it's the public as well as developers as well as all the elected members. So you did receive an email about it from Emily to everybody, and it's on the website as well. But it needs everyone to look at it and to feedback. But there are certain things in it that would mean having trees on the on pavements is a thing of the past, because the cost implications, if you do it as per the streetscape, would make it just too costly. So, and Wychavon, for example, want trees on new estates. So you've already got a loggerheads between the county council streetscape design guide and what the design guide is for some of the district councils. So we really do need to make sure we scrutinise that, and we do make sure that we need to get everyone's feedback. And the last thing is just to say that we're virtually towards the end of our overview and scrutiny task group on small flood alleviation schemes, and that seems to be going quite well. So I'm looking forward to getting the report out early part of next year.
I'm really pleased to hear that, because we're kind of pretty much running into the buffer now of the election. And it'd be really nice to tidy up all the loose ends in the next couple of months. So if we've got any outstanding business, rather than allow it to sort of just wither on the vine, if we can nail it so that by March we can put all the issues to bed and actually have completed our work. Alistair, are you going to raise in that panel the issue about the legal 106 stuff and the problem with the funding being out of date by the time? Is that something you can raise in your panel? Because we didn't raise it today. We talked about it, but we didn't actually raise it.
I think it can go on our work plan, it is an issue, but if you can write that letter to the head of legal that we talked about, and but yes, let's add it to the work plan.
We'll do that, and we'll share it with you before we send it off. Brandon, your HOSC.
Just a quick update. We discussed the budget, the grants that we get from council, because as the committee is slightly different. It doesn't come from the borough, from the council. It comes from government. And as we heard, that's why I asked the question you said about if we knew anything, but we won't know anything till the 19th. So that's a concern, because of some of the services have to be sorted out now because of the Christmas period and things like that. So domestic abuse is the biggest one, which is causing the biggest problem. But this is the way it's going. But on the other point now, our director won an award, which is a fantastic reflection on the county council and for the work the team are doing in that area. For when you think of the smoking, the obesity, and many other projects they're doing throughout the county, by actually taking a bus round as well to various areas, and people can go there and see various things. So that's a good thing. The interesting one come up in our meeting in January is the Health and Care Trust and the changes and which they might be doing and looking at, and also the final CQC report into their services. So that's been an interesting meeting, because we try to do now one body instead of having different organisations come. So we get everything done we've got all the right people there at the right time, and so you don't keep swapping people over and things like that, because we think it's better to you have a proper pathway going through it, and that's where we are now.
Thanks, Brendan. Emma?
Thank you. Yes, so we met recently, we met in November, and that was an extra meeting, as we felt we had quite a lot we needed to go over, especially with regards to the SEND local area partnership priority action and improvement plan. So we looked at that again, and there have been some improvements, and it was, I suppose it was a wake-up call and slightly disappointing when I think it was Mary Gay from Health from the NHS had said that it's going to be a very long-term project. You know, we're not going to see improvements quick. We're talking 18 months to 2 years, and I was hoping it would be much faster, but it's definitely going to be on the top of our priority at Children's for the foreseeable. We have asked for it to come back every single quarter so that we can keep a really close eye on it. We also looked at an investigation report from the Local Government and Social Care Ombudsman, which, to be honest, was linked in very closely to the issues that we have had with SEND. It was quite an old complaint which had finally got through to us to look through, so we could send the report back to the Ombudsman, and it was kind of, it typified some of the issues that we were facing in SEND, which had brought us to this point. Now, we're meeting again next week, as was mentioned earlier, and we are going to be looking at children missing education, which again has a slight attachment into the SEND budget. We know that some parents are choosing to homeschool because of SEND. However, the majority of parents from the studies I've looked at, it is to do with ideological reasons. So we can explore that in a lot more on how we are supporting and looking into the role of children being homeschooled, but also then other children who are missing education, who we need to help get back into education, really. And then there's the valuing care and foster care remuneration, which we spoke about earlier today, and to see the results of those studies. So it's all very exciting. Thank you.
Thank everyone for what you're doing. James, is there anything you'd like to say?
Not from me, thanks, Chair.
Okay. So we've just now got the final item this morning. That's looking at the future work programme. So we are next to meet on the 30th of January, where we'll devote the meeting to budget scrutiny, and you'll come back having had your panel meetings and give us the flavour of what you discovered. So that will be the large portion of that meeting. Then the 24th of Feb, we've got an update on section 278, which will interest Alistair. And then our final meeting will refresh the Scrutiny Performance Board work programme. So there is some capacity in March and I think in February to add additional items to our agenda. And I think we've got a long list somewhere I was looking at. Where was that? Possible items. Can you find that? And whether there's anything there that is shouting out to you that we could use in our February or March meeting. So income generation, crime and disorder, drugs and alcohol strategy, youth work, prevention of drugs and alcohol issues. That's kind of like what we had a moment ago. Transgender hate crime. I suspect Mr. Udall's behind some of these proposals. Yeah, he is. Section 38, as opposed to 278.
That's the task group list for the future.
Yeah. Just looking then at, are we a listening council? How do we consult? It's quite interesting. Brandon?
Is the income generation.
Okay.
Because I'm conscious of a meeting we had here some months ago, and the various officers brought a number of income generation projects forward, but I don't know if we've looked at them or not.
I agree with you. Does anyone dissent? Officers, is that something we can do?
Yeah, we can look into that.
Can we put that into the February meeting maybe?
Can I suggest?
Alistair?
I'm away on the 24th of February, unfortunately, and I'd really like to be on section 278. Is there any chance we can move the 278 to the March meeting?
And have the income generation on the February one.
That's the end of our meeting. Thank you, everyone. I thought it was a really good meeting. Thank you for your attendance.